Jackie Doyle-Price.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a great pleasure to address the House on the subject of New Clause 2, which I'm very happy to sponsor with the Right Honourable Gentleman Member for Easington and with the support of the RMT. And I do so in a spirit recognising that the government is reviewing the tonnage tax regime with exactly the right attitude. But I would just like to encourage the government to think more widely about how we genuinely get a post-Brexit bonus for the entirety of this industry, not just the ship owners, but also the workers too. And I address my comments from my position as chairman of the all-party group on ports and maritime. I'm very proud of our maritime sector. I'm very proud to represent the ports in Thurrock, particularly in Tilbury and Purfleet, and of course the Thames Freeport. And the great thing about this particular finance bill, it shows that the government's taking advantage of the new freedoms that we have now that we've left the European Union. We now have more tax freedoms, which will encourage more business investment, and I'm greatly looking forward to watching the Thames Freeport grow and grow, which has been a fantastic partnership between the Forth ports, who are based in Scotland, Dubai ports, who invest in London Gateway, and of course Ford at Dagenham, and it will bring a whole new lease of life to economic opportunities on the Thames. But I'm very keen that workers get a better chance to share in that post-Brexit freedom that we have. So it's with that in mind that I've been very happy to engage with the RMT and with the Honourable Gentleman to give my support to this sector. Because if we are genuinely a maritime nation, and we often trot out these platitudes within this chamber, but if we're going to really mean that we are a maritime nation, then we really should have our own maritime workforce, whether it be through ports, whether it be those engaged in shipbuilding. And I'm very pleased that the Prime Minister has put his personal backing towards expanding our shipbuilding sector and getting back to making ships here. But it's also for our seafarers. And on a day where we're celebrating levelling up, we should also remember that our coastal communities are amongst those that are in most need of levelling up, and for the workers in those areas, the opportunity to have access to more opportunities for skilled jobs surely should be grasped. So with that in mind, I support New Clause 2 and the amendment sponsored by the Honourable Member, the Member for Easington. And if I just tell a story about my constituency, I have many retired seafarers in my constituency, as I would representing what I call the ports capital of the UK, and they tell me these great stories of their romantic adventures that they had as young men travelling the world. But I have no seafarers amongst the current generation. And whilst we have the current tonnage tax regime, which is encouraging the shipping companies to invest in training opportunities for officers and cadets, all fine and good. But I would like to see that also extended to encouraging more training opportunities for ratings too, because I can't think of a better way for a young person, entering the world of work, than to be able to travel the world and see the world while they're learning new skills. And there are many skills that are required on a ship that can be migrated into employment later in their life. So to me, it seems like a no-brainer, really, if we're really wanting to open the horizons opportunities for all our young people. And I'd also say it feels a bit elitist to me if we're using, with the entirely right attitude, where we're using this tax regime and the concessions around it to encourage investment in training, that we just restrict that to the officer class. Because, we know what's happened in the shipping industry. So we're training people to fill senior positions, whilst shipping companies are recruiting cheaper labour from elsewhere in the world, and we all know where those countries are. And at a time where we're encouraging companies to be more virtuous about advertising their supply chains and tackling the whole issue of modern slavery. It seems slightly hypocritical to me that we turn the other way when we know of companies that are taking advantage of cheap labour in the maritime sector. Now, to be fair, the government's done an awful lot of work on this, and I must congratulate the government for making changes to minimum wage legislation, for example, which has improved conditions in our waters. But you know, we are nothing if not leaders by example. So I would like to encourage the government to go further. And I have been very grateful for the conversation I've had with my honourable friend and the Exchequer Secretary on this. And so I would encourage them, as they go through with this review, to really think imaginatively about what more we can do to properly use this very important measure to encourage more employment in this industry. I mean, I have really nothing much more to add than that, other than to say, you know, it is a great pleasure to work with colleagues on the opposite side. I'm not sure I ever thought that I would find myself sponsoring an amendment in the name of the RMT, but actually that's what Brexit has done, to be fair. You know, the RMT supported Brexit not without good reason. So, you know, we are used to having a world run from Brussels where, you know, the business lobby was really based on cosy corporatism. In terms of how we're now approaching economic policy post-Brexit, we are determined to make sure that this really delivers for the whole of Britain, for the whole of our business community. So let's make sure it delivers for the workers too.
Alison Tewlis.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the honourable member for Thurrock. And I very much agree with the principles of her new clause 2, because if it is to mean anything to people, tonnage tax should be more than just changing a flag. It should be about changing the culture, as she mentioned. And I'm very proud to have City of Glasgow